beautiful, warm and chilled, blessed Sunday to our beloved South Africans. I am Mangweta Wagamulepo, Kasereto Kitamela Sonaslolo Sadito, also known as the Black Rose. So today it's a very special day for all of us. I mean for myself and my crew, and also you, my viewers at home. So today we have our living legend, a whole president / grandmaster of a Rastafari action in South Africa, a man that has shared wisdom and also history about Rastafari culture to all of the South African. I would like to welcome on stage Mr. Thau-Thau, Haramanuba. Welcome, sir. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much to you, Black Rose, and the viewers of Khoneng. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. To me, I usually tell my crew that being with you, sitting with you like this, it's more like sharing a table with Messi.
With
you
Messi.
You are our own South African living legend. So, sir, we invited you here today to our show, Khoneng.
Yes.
We want you to give us information. We want you to teach us about the youth of today, about the generation of today.
Well, the youth of today, obviously, we're going to talk about Africa. We're talking about Africans. As you say, I'm a Rasta man. I'm dealing with Rastafari, so I'm preoccupied with race first. Our race. We are one people who have gone through a lot. Slavery, colonialism, apartheid, neo-apartheid. Now we are going through new form of apartheid. So it's always the youth who are basically the future, that a lot of things should be directed to. So for the youth of today, I encourage that they should be preoccupied with decolonization of the African mind. One area that is being so much damaged is our mind, because black ignorance is a mega billion-dollar industry. They say in America alone, with fake hair alone, they're making billions of dollars. That's a black ignorance. With fake nails, billions of dollars. That's a black ignorance. So black ignorance is costly. Our ignorance make a lot of money for other people. So the more we deal with this ignorance, we try to halve it and eradicate it, the more we will become rich ourselves, because then we won't be like being compared. They will tell you that for the Jews, for example, money move within the Jewish community 10 times before it goes outside. But for us, if I'm going to give you money, the first place you're going to buy is not even from someone of your kind. You're going to these stores that are owned by other people. So money does not even circulate among ourselves 3 times or 4 times. So our ignorance, it is costly. So, but moreover on the youth. So the youth are the future. We must always invest on the youth. But must remember also in South Africa, as we will be going to the June month, where they say it's a youth month, June 16, it was the youth who rise up against another form of colonialism, which in the political context of South Africa, they call it CST, colonialism of a special type, where the colonizer and the colonized are in the same space, and the colonizer wants to impose his language as a medium of instruction for everything. In this case was Africans. But the youth had to rise up and fight, But the youth make the bulk of our revolutionary consciousness. Steve Biko was a youth. Even when he died, he was pretty much within the space of the youth. You would be considered a youth according to our government and organizational classification of a youth. So to the youth of our country, to the youth of our continent, decolonization of the African mind. The mind is the most important asset we have. So if our mind is colonized, our entire being is colonized. So I will encourage that Rastafari say actually, and this is what drew me into the movement about 33 years ago, listening to Bob Marley's music. And then there's one line that is in Redemption song where he said, none but ourselves can free our mind. So that brought me in to know that it's a responsibility of ourselves to free our mind. In which way, you have responsibility to seek knowledge, wisdom and understanding in order to free your mind from the chains of ignorance.
we have had for ourselves. And it is true that your mind is the most sharpest weapon of your body. So, sir, I wanted to ask you a question about what do you think is the importance of us, the youth of today, to know ourselves?
It is important to know ourselves because you see, a lot of energy was invested in making sure that we don't know ourselves. One of the things, we were given European names and we were told they are Christian names, but which is basically European names because Peter, Paul, Isaac, John, James are all European names, although you might find them in the Bible, but they are still European names because the Bible is European. They say they are Christian name. Christianity is a European culture. So basically, our identity, the beginning to rob our identity began with that, with naming us and giving us other name. And so the one who name you can have a control over you. And then from there also our educational system. We're to be subjected to assemblies where we are taught about the story of other people. Adam and Eve is not our story. The talking snake in Eden is not our story. All of that. So we have to be taught other people's value system, knowledge system, and internalize it. To the point that we were even taught useless knowledge, like, name the body part of a locust. What are you doing today with that knowledge? That information that the locust has got a head, the abdomen, and a tail, and the feelers, and all of that. Absolutely nothing. Nothing really that you'll do with that knowledge of body parts of a locust. But those are the things that were stuffed in. We were not taught about us. We were taught about the others. We were taught, that is why even when we look at beauty outside of ourselves. We're using the European standards of beauty. What is beautiful is what the Europeans say is beautiful. That is why we have a whole lot of our women putting fake hair, trying their level best to look white, even though they are not. Because beauty was defined outside. It even went into our own cultures, like if you are going to get married, you are going to do 2 marriages. And one of these 2 marriages is supposed to validate your other marriage. You're going to have a white wedding to validate your traditional wedding. You hardly said, I want to do traditional wedding only. Even if you do traditional wedding, you still want the white dress, the white wedding, which is the Western wedding. And then we are colonized to believe that our traditional wedding is traditional. But the white wedding is not traditional. But the white wedding is traditional wedding for the white people. So we're taking other people's tradition also and making it our own tradition. And said, oh, it's a traditional wedding and a white wedding. No, it's 2 traditional weddings. The other one is European, the other one is African. But this one of yours need this other one in order to give it value, to give it validity. So to our songs, Tswantswang le bone ngwana o tshwana le lekhalati. Wa bona why sa tshwane le mo Africa, why re sa re ngwana o na o tshwana le mo Sudan, le a Nubian, le a Bantu, a Congolese, a Nigerian. But we have to say o tshwana le lekhalati because again beauty is defined outside of ourselves. That is why we have the highest skin bleaching population, because you find something wrong with your blackness. We're the only people that le lo tlhapa koro o tshwere saka le suika o tshwere le shogotho o tshwere le koro wa ke karapa because you were told that there is no beauty in this blackness. So you have to be a black rose. You have to know that black is beautiful, and be black and proud, and be black and young, and all of those qualities that we need for ourselves as black people to go forward. So the decolonization of the mind, again, is very central to this thing, because all of these things are a result of colonialism and neo-colonialism, which in turn, it produced neo-African culture, which is a culture filled with psychology of self-hate. We hate ourselves a lot.
That's true. That's true. When coming to hating ourselves, that is true, because we find that too. Most of youth, they hate themselves. Hence, they don't. If she's dark, she wants to change. So my other question here is, what can you say to us? Well, you as you said before about the assembly thing and stuff, and the educational system of South Africa. I want to know that do we as youth here today, the Bantu Nguni youth, do we really need to believe in Christ? Do we really need to believe in the stories that we are told in the Bible?
Well, you see, those who came to colonize us, they came with a specific mission. This mission, they carry with them triple C, that they are coming to Christianize us, they are coming to civilize us, which is basically a euphemism for westernizing us or Europeanizing us. They're coming to actually Europeanize us, or westernize us. And then they're coming to commercialize. So the Christ concept is a colonial concept that was used to replace our own African spirituality. We have our own spirituality, we have our own concept of the Savior, we have our own concept of Mudimu, God. Like for instance, if ke ka botsisa ngwana wa Mopedi ke re Modimo ke mang ka Sepedi, o tlo re ke Modimo, wa bona. Mara Modimo ka Sepedi ke Kgobe. Kgobe. That is why ga o lokile ba re motho wa Kgobe. That is why ga o le mmeleng ba re o motho wa Kgobe. That is why setšhaba se bidiwa batho ba Kgobe. It is the oldest name, but no, I've gone through the educational system during apartheid. There is no way in school where they teach you that. Even at the time when they teach religious studies, in that process, which was basically BIBS, biblical studies, you are not taught about Khobe, which is Mudimu in your very nature, and which forms part and parcel of your own language. So re le moshanyana wa Senkatane, mophulusi wa batho mpeng ya Kgodumodumo. Those who know the story tsa kgale tsa Basotho. The thing is, this knowledge system ya rona, they call it mythology, they call it legends, they call it fairy tale, but get it on one. So you don't see the spiritual connection when they tell you about moshanyana Senkatane, mophulusi wa batho mpeng ya Kgodumodumo. When they teach you that Modimo mocha rapela wa kgale, a rapela o ye moholo, tlatla macholo sene sa pula, rammuluki atla di maroba. You understand? You don't see value in that. You're just thinking ke di nonwane tsa kgale. But this is our spirituality. This is where we are saying to our people, we are moving our people from Christianity to Africanity. That they have to, we are moving them to Africa beyond Ethiopia and Egypt. That beyond Ethiopia and Egypt there is Africa. That even the Emperor Haile Selassie said, we Ethiopians belongs to one group of people, which is the African people. So Africa is our beginning, Africa is our ending. So Africa is the roots of everything that make us us. So Africans don't need Christ. They brought to you the idea of Christ because they brought you the idea of sin. That two individuals who are not related to us, we inherited their sin. And this is what we were saying, that how is it that we inherited the sin of Adam and Eve, but we did not inherit the wealth of Solomon? Solomon was the richest man. Why didn't we inherit his wealth? Why didn't we inherit the wisdom of Solomon, but we inherited the sin of Adam and Eve, which burden us with Baramusadi will bear children by labor pains and so forth. You understand? So they use fear. And they use fear of hell, that therefore you need Christ. How can God, the creator of the whole universe, depend on one person to save the whole world, called Christ? How is that possible? How can God, who made everything, have to have only one person that if you go by that person, you will be saved? I see how you look at me.
Wow. Wow. Back to you, Mohedi Moholapeng, and when we come back from the ad break, I promise to bring more questions that will bring more fire. I'll see you soon.
My name is Twizer, and for all those that don't know me, I go by Mareza on Generations. Now, do you want to be a film director, actor, scriptwriter, producer, or even the guy with the camera? Then say no more. Study with us at Wiser Media Academy. And all you have to do to get in touch with us is to send us a text, a WhatsApp, or give us a call on 078 242 4867. That's 078 242 4867. Or you can pop us an email at info@wisermedia.com or visit our website at www.wisermedia.com. Wiser Media. Tell your own story.
And welcome back to our very first episode of the show. Remember, this is our own podcast named Khoneng, and you're still with me, the Black Rose, and obviously Mr. Haramanuba. So, sir, we're back with more fire, more questions, and more information. So, I wanted to ask if would you set the Emperor Haile Selassie as an example to today's youth, and if so, why?
Emperor Haile Selassie, his other name is Rastafari. Now, when you say Rastafari, it's a movement named after the emperor. So the Rastafari are people who call upon Rastafari and who are called by Rastafari's name. But Emperor Haile Selassie, he began his administrative responsibility at a very young age. At the age of 10, he was already a governor of a province called Hara.
Really?
Yes. So he was born Lich Tafari, which means a royal child, 1892, 23 July. Lich Tafari, meaning child of the royal family. And then he became, at the age of 10, he became Dijazmak Tafari, which may basically mean the commander of the door or the keeper, when he get the position of the governor of Hara. So he went on, he became a Ras, which is a provincial ruler, a ruler of the army, a commander. He introduced modernization in Ethiopia, modern education, modern machinery, TV, cars. Like modern Ethiopia is the foundation of modern Ethiopia. So when you speak of modern Ethiopia, you can't talk of modern Ethiopia without Emperor Haile Selassie. Now, he went on and make Ethiopia be part of the League of Nations. That was before the United Nations, the only African country that was part of the League of Nations. He campaigned for South Africa to be chased from the Commonwealth during apartheid. For its apartheid policies. He reconciled the warring factions that were there in Africa called the Casablanca Bloc and the Monrovia Bloc. And then he was the founder of the Organization of African Unity, the OAU, which is today called the African Union, which then contributed in the liberation of many countries, Zimbabwe, Namibia, South Africa itself, Angola, Mozambique, all of these countries that were under colonialism, he contributed. Nelson Mandela was trained by Haile Selassie. If you go to the Apartheid Museum in Mondio, in Joburg, next to Gold Reef, there is an Apartheid Museum there at Mondio. There you are going to find a passport which Emperor Haile Selassie gave to Mandela under the name David Muzamai, Mandela's combat name or a name. You know, freedom fighters have names, combat names. Sabelo Palmer is a combat name for Victor Kweta. Chris Hani is Tembisi Lehani. You see, right. So Mandela had his combat name, which was David Muzamai, which was given by Emperor Haile Selassie. He gave him the boots. They're there in the museum for everyone to see, the boots, the passport, and the pistol. He trained the first soldiers of Umkhonto Wesizwe to fight for the liberation of South Africa. So now, with all of that, you can surmise for yourself, is this person important? Is he an inspiration? Now, to take it even further, the Rastafari, they consider him to be the black god. when they say God, they talk about Haile Selassie. Haile Selassie means powerful Trinity. That is his name. But Haile Selassie come from a long line of kings. They are referred to as Solomonic kings, who are the product of the union of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, Solomon of the Bible and the Queen of Sheba of Ethiopia. So he is the last king to preside over the Ark of the Covenant. So there is a whole lot of importance and significance attached around the Emperor Haile Selassie, even for the youth. And one of the most important statements he made was in his visit to Malawi. In 1966, on the 2nd of August, he visited Malawi. And then he made a speech, and this speech was directed to the youth of Africa, that the future is for you. He said a whole lot of things that the youth of Africa will do well to learn that speech, internalize his words, and practicalize them. So yes, the Emperor Haile Selassie is absolutely important to the African youth, to the African liberation, to the African history. He represented a country that was never colonized at that time when he was leading Ethiopia. Remember, here we're talking about he started to rule Ethiopia from 1910, like some part of Ethiopia, but to rule it effectively from 1916 up until to 1974. So he has ruled Ethiopia for about 86 years or so, as a regent, as a ras, as a negus, which is a king, and as a negusa negas, which is the king of kings or the emperor. He's the Lion of Judah, the 225th descendant of Solomon and Sheba.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Youth niyazizwela ngezinye izindlebe ezithu. So with the information that you have, with the information that you just gave us right now, the answer and the reasons of why should we set our black Jesus, our black God as an example of today's youth. I want to know, what is our calling as today's youth, since your generation has fought such a great war? What is our duty as today's youth, since you have done things for us? You have made things more easier for us. Now I want to know our duty.
I will tell you, every generation has got its own great war cut out for them. As Frantz Fanon will say, every generation, I don't know, it's Frantz Fanon or Amilcar Cabral, one of the two. Every generation must find their mission, fulfill it or betray it within their own relative obscurity. So meaning every generation has got its responsibility to find its mission and to fulfill it or to betray it. And now instead of our generation, these generations, they call the 2Ks and 90s and so forth, instead of this generation being complaining Mandela sold out, or those leaders sold out because of the land issues unresolved and so forth, it is a responsibility of this generation to take on where the previous generations has left off. It's a generational. They talk about generational wealth, but ours is a generational struggle. So it moved from one generation to the other. It is not the responsibility of a particular generation. If you go even to the history of resistance, there was the generation of Sikukuni, Bo Makado, Bo Hintsa, Bo Techwayo, who fought the war of resistance. After them, there is a generation that went on to form over the ANC in 1912 and so forth. And then after that, you have the next generation that went and took on even to armed struggle and pick up arms and fight. Before that, it was peaceful. So every generation is got a responsibility to continue with the struggle where the previous generation has left until the total liberation of the Africans. So the generation of today, instead of you doing dance challenges on TikTok and you doing all of these type of things, you know, every week there is a new challenge, or instead of spending a lot of time red flagging a black man, a boyfriend is out bitching, red flag, what, red flag. Instead of doing that, we need to focus on real issues, because no other people do that.
Yeah.
So we, the black people, we are the only group of people who turn the battlefield into a play field. So raraloka on the battlefield, but everybody else, they know that we are at war. We are at war against poverty, at war against ignorance, at war against disease, at war against so many things, but we are at war. So we're the only one who are playing. You are turning the battlefield into a playing field. So our generation must be serious and focus on serious issues.
Yeah, that's true. And bringing another one up, the generation arena, you know, I'm a 2K.
I'm a 2K, yeah.
It's when I get load shading.
Yes, yes.
So, load shedding, should it be a key concern to Baswa Babantu? Baswa, not to say Babantu, but Baswa ba Murafi Warina.
Africa born.
Yes.
Well, number one, load shedding it affects all generation. Old, the 2Ks, the 90s, the 80s, all of that, we are affected by load shedding. It does not even affect the youth or generation, it affects business. It affects any form of production. It affects household. One Rasta woman, who was my sister in Cape Town, her house burned because of load shedding. The on and off, and then the whole thing, you know, it come in, electricity. A couple of days back, our fridge also got affected. While we plug, the plug burned, you see. So it's a serious problem, load shedding. It's a societal issue. It's one of the sore points that if we were still the real South Africans, we should have long removed the president and the Minister of Electricity. And because you can't be getting into stage 6 and 7 while you have a Minister of Electricity. What is his job? But now what we have been seeing is also having the best dance moves, you know. Ever since Baro Dancela or appointee, but we don't want dance move. You see, the problem we have is our problems are technical. And we keep on appointing politicians to solve technical problems. Our problems need technicians. They don't need politicians to come and pontificate and politicize the problem. But they need technicians, people who know how to fix the problem and fix the problem. Unless this is an agenda, as there is a feeling that this is a man-made disaster problem, because they want to sell ESCOM or unbundle ESCOM and introduce the independent power producers or the IPPs, which the president and his brothers-in-laws and everybody supposed to be also beneficiaries or involved. That is another part. But if not, then the problem should be solved. So the youth must do something about it, because it is also robbing their future. So it is robbing the ability to learn. All of these things. So yes, it is a problem that should concern the youth, but not only the youth, the business sector, society, the political parties, the social parties, social movement, and the civic society movement.
Well, for us South Africans, that is so bad, extremely bad. Now say to be out of the real stuff. On our research, we have found out that you are from the royal house, the royal family. So I want you to take us to that path. Yeah, the Haramanuba royal house.
The royal house of Haramanuba. Okay, the royal house of Haramanuba, it is me and my queens. I'm a polygamous man. So as our tradition require, we living according to two tradition, divinity and royalty. We define ourselves in terms of royalty and divinity. So my queens, our queens in our society, in our traditions, and the women for that matter in our society, we don't call them chicks, we don't call them cherries, we don't call them babies. Chick is a little chicken. Cherry is that little thing you put on top of ice cream. Baby is a little human. So we don't call that. All of them you see is small, ne? Small small chicken, small ice cream, a small top of ice cream, small human. So we call them queens. We call woman queens. So it means we have a divine concept of a woman. We call them goddess. We call them priestess. So we have a divine and a royal concept of self. So the royal house of Haramanuba, I'm the king of that royal house. I'm the head of the royal house of Haramanuba, and me and my queens are part of the royal house, and my princess and my 21 children. So Yes.
21 children.
21 children still counting. So that form the part of the royal house of Haramanuba. Yes.
That's a whole kingdom.
Is a king and his queens. And you ask me how many queens you have, I'm going to tell you that Basadi Asidi Khomu Arababali. Women are not cows, we don't count them.
Okay, I rest my case. I rest my case.
Yes.
Viewers, Lapendini, I'm sure you have heard everything that you wanted to hear about the man we are with today, as we heard that he is a king of a certain kingdom, which is the Haramanuba kingdom. Now, I think we have reached our destination with the man of the moment, our legend, our living legend. Now, I would like to say thank you very much for you and the attention that you have paid for today's show. Remember, this is our very first episode on our podcast named Khoneng Ya Puwo. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for listening to all the information. And I pray and believe, hope that youth here today, it listens and it practices what he says. To you, South Africa and the world, I say goodbye. Till next time.